Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Lang. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Lang.
Welcome to Finding Certainty, everybody. This is Patrick Lang with my good friend Michael Peluso of 3 Summers Creative. You'll see a different background today if you're looking at the YouTube version of this, because Michael and I are actually at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. We both presented at a big CEO summit this week, something they do every year here at Liberty. And we had a great time, didn't we, Michael? It's been just a fantastic week here at Liberty.
It really has. I'm so grateful for you, Patrick, and everyone we've met.
Well, we've not only had a good time, but we've done some good.
Yeah,
some really extraordinary connections, built some friendships, and we'll talk a little bit about that during the show today, because it's a really important event that Liberty does each year. We're going to get in a little bit why that is and some of the things we learned. Talk a little bit about Michael and his background and so forth. But I always like to start the show with just a couple of reasons why I've invited the specific guest on Finding Certainty. And first and foremost, if you look at the episode description, you look at some of the accolades that Michael and his family-owned business have accrued, it's pretty extraordinary, pretty impressive. He looks like he's about 15 years old, but he we've been giving him a hard time this week. He's the good looking one in the bunch, and we're all twice his age. But what he and his 2 sisters have accomplished with 3 Summers Creative, their marketing and advertising agency, is just absolutely impressive. And so that's the first reason we're going to be talking to really one of the experts in the advertising industry. And then, they've spoken to the United Nations. They've got clients like Verizon and Home Depot and ADP and others that are, those are not small accounts. And you've got to be doing something right to attract and retain that kind of talent. But above and beyond that, in the last few days, especially, as we've been able to actually stay together. Well, we're in a big old 1800 era Airbnb here in Lynchburg while we've been in town. But we've got to see that Michael is one of the most intuitive and insightful thinkers that I've ever met in, over 30 years in business. I already had a glimpse of that from our past work, but it's really been driven home, Michael, this week, man. You are incredible.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Patrick. And you know what? I'm very present and aware that my success is for me. I'm a very mission-driven, passionate, faith-driven entrepreneur, and so I'm guided. My success has been very much blessed into my life. But for me, and one of the things that I'm excited to speak with you about today is the heart of relationships and how to grow relationships and how that impacts the marketplace. And I like to say that I am because we are, and I thrive on surrounding myself with successful people, which is so right back at you, man.
Yeah, I completely resonate with that. I feel the same way. They say we're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? Hopefully one of those is your spouse, hopefully right. We don't work so much that they're not in the top 5, but literally we are the sum of the people we surround ourselves by. And this has been a great example of that this week. We've had, Frank Hellring from Business Buzz with us, and Tony Singh, the founder of Ample Points, Ken York, who's going to be a guest in another couple of weeks. He's the founder and CEO of Life Exec. And we had our friends from Emergent 3. They're also coming up on the show, talking about their breakthrough security product that can help protect anyone, any school, any business, any nonprofit from any emergency, crisis, or threat. We're talking active shooter threats. How do you best prepare for that sort of scenario, right? Those guys were with us this week as well, Preston Keller and Dalton Mickelson. So the list just goes on. And we were I think we were the just a drop in the bucket of the talent and the experience that were here at this conference. So yourself included. So, well, Michael, I always like to start the show with, like I said, the 2 insights to why you're on, and what you've accomplished as a firm and just who you are as a person really top the list in my mind. You're a man of faith. You're just really insightful. I've learned a great deal just hanging out with you for the last 4 days. But additionally, let's get into a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up, and kind of background leading up to the business? Let's talk about you first, and then we'll get into the company
Sure.
and what you're doing, and then some other thoughts a little bit later in the show.
So, and I suppose that if I put the hat on, I wear many hats. But if I put the hat on of just the marketing agency, that story is a family story. And I guess all of our stories are family stories. So I grew up in beautiful Hunterdon County, New Jersey. We grew up, actually my family, we grew up very poor, in a very wealthy area. My grandfather was a rocket engineer, and he owned the home that we live in, and we rented from him. And my mother had a total of 4 children, and we all have done some stuff in this marketing agency. I'm the director of business development. My sister is the CEO, credible CEO, just really incredible. And my other sister is the creative director, and we grew up creatively playing. And that creative play led to, it didn't matter what we were doing it together. And that creative play is what we kind of said, well, how do we continue to do this in the world? And that led to creative marketing and that kind of having those kind of relationships. So I think that when you're surrounded by people you can have those open and authentic conversations with, where you can grow together through those relationships, then you're just doing that over and over and over again in different arenas. And when you can speak to people with that clarity, that authentic connection, it just delivers results over and over and over again. And that's kind of where, so I grew up in Hunterdon, and I started off studying something called corrective holistic exercise kinesiology and neurolinguistic programming and yada, 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 which is just a big giant mouthful. And all you need to know is that I studied how habits and our thinking and our relationships and our societal conversation impacts performance. And at the heart of that is language. And experience. Our experience collapsed and stored in language folders inside of our mind. And so when I was a kid, so I went out and I promoted that business. It was like started off as, coaching and life coaching and personal training. And I traveled all around my county and hung my little flyer up, which my sister made, and yeah, we went to all we went and hung it up inside of equestrian, where people ride horseback and so that started off my entrepreneurial journey, because the people that picked that up were extraordinary leaders, and I got to spend time with them in their basement, 4 hours a day, one-on-one, listening for what was going to make a biggest difference in their life, going home, figuring that out, bringing it back. And it built a relationship of trust. And those relationships opened doors for me that I could not believe. And that's kind of probably why we're here today. That in divine guidance, we'll say.
Right. I always called it divine choreography.
Yes.
I love that, because you think of a choreographer, right? They're putting their dancers or their actors, they're putting them into the places they want them to be. They have an idea, they have a big picture of where they want it to go, where they want the show to progress to, and they're the director, if you will, in placing those figures. And I believe in that. We're sitting here at Liberty University. Obviously, we've heard about faith in business every day for the last week. And I'm a big believer in that. I believe if we can open our minds and our ears, open our hearts, that we will be guided in our work. Whatever your belief, whatever your type of faith or your discipline or dogma. It doesn't matter. You could be Jewish, Islam, Christian, we all believe in a higher power, unless we're an atheist, right? But we believe that there's a higher power. You could call it the universe even. But if you don't understand or haven't experienced that feeling of being guided and directed in your work, it's usually not because that guidance isn't coming. It's because we're not listening, right? Because it's there. I think it's coming every day. When we have ideas pop in our minds and impressions and so forth and so on, we either ignore them or we pay attention to them. We might write them off as indigestion, but I've always thought of them as inspiration. And when I listen, and the better I do at listening to them, the better I do in life and in business. And so anyway, kind of a low tangent there, but so
it's
I really appreciate that.
Right? It's a powerful one because, we talk about managing certainty, but what in life is really certain? So there's, I think that what I found the most success in is well, kind of saying, well, hold on, wait a minute. Let me let go of the efforting inside of things. And, we're talking about relationships. And I think sometimes when we're trying to effort a relationship, sometimes we're just kidding ourselves. That person may have a completely different outcome, or they have a different vision, and they, so how, when you're engaging with others, there's always a sense of presence and groundedness that you should be engaging someone with, looking for and listening for what's going to make the biggest difference in their life and in their business. And I think that is the heart of success when it comes to business growth. Because you can only have so many conversations, right? We all went through COVID, and going through COVID, we saw this polarity create in the world, and which is now returning back and being healed. And so if we look at the polarity that's there, we kind of saw, two sides to the same coin, so to speak. And so when we're engaging in relationships and we're communicating with people and we're growing our business, it's really powerful to do that from a place of certainty, because we can see that things can go. So where that certainty is felt, where do you feel that certainty? So for me, it's like, I feel it in my, it's a presence. It's just a presence. And some people call it faith. Some people call it the universe, some people call it whatever, but it's always there. It's not something if you can let go of distractions. They say when Michelangelo was asked how he created David, he said, I took a piece of marble and removed what wasn't David. And that is focus inside of business and marketing. You can't share everything with the world all at once. But if you let go of what isn't working, you'll find a path of least resistance. And that path of resistance is the guidance. And it often just brings you right back to that beautiful natural reality that we're all born into.
Yeah, I love that. The whole concept of path of least resistance really resonates with me, because what's interesting, and we talked about this week, maybe we could talk a little bit about the two breakout sessions that you and I both did. We talked about how when we let go and got out of the way and switched our focus even from profit to purpose, right? For more than just focusing on income, but trying to not just make income, but make a difference. It was as though our business suddenly engaged. It's like something clicked and something started that was on automatic, that we couldn't even slow it down if we wanted to. It starts having these ripple effects, right? And it does become effortless. You're still working hard, but we're not working hard looking for customers, or we're not working hard trying to even solve problems. We're working hard running from appointment to appointment to appointment, meeting with all the people who want to talk to us, right? I mean, I'm exhausted after this week, because we've had meeting after meeting after meeting from people reaching out to us and asking us to be a part of what we're doing. And it is the path of least resistance. It is absolutely, it's tiring, but it is effortless. And that's an interesting dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I think that there's a bunch of different ways for it's amazing because you think about a coin and you can look at it from so many different directions. So often people you'll attend a course and they have a whole lot of concepts, and you there's this concept that's on the board, and then there's a gap between the application of that concept and what actually happens. And I think that success leaves clues. And if you look at it, I think that if you look at what's made business success in your own business right now, if you look and you say, well, there's a path, there's a line that's working, then you begin to become grounded out in what's going to work. And so sharing that, having that larger purpose that you can share with others, lets it be about the vision versus the tactical. And I think that vision is an opportunity where we can, a vision is a place for creation. It hasn't happened yet. We're headed there. And that vision can include and encompass everyone. And so I think that there's a tremendous value in sharing that vision.
I would agree. It becomes more than even just a path of least resistance, or even a vision or a plan that you're implementing. It takes on a life of its own, where as I talk about ripple effects, but it takes on this amplification that is happening despite you, right? It's almost as though it takes on a life of its own. We're experiencing this when we made this pivot, and we decided we continue with our cost reduction work and our funding and our recovery work, but we could also use it for good. It's as though the universe said, or God reached down and said, I'm going to help you out here. Let me open these doors, windows. I mean, we met billionaires this week. We're part of projects that have global consequence, and they aren't because of hours and hours of hard work and beating our heads against a wall trying to make it happen. They're literally coming out of the woodwork. I'm a firm believer that when you incorporate purpose into your work, those types of things happen. And we've got to go to break here coming up, but just give us one thought. What from your childhood made you the advertising executive, award-winning ad executive that you are? Just in 30 seconds.
Yeah. And I'm excited to share more on this, but there is a way of listening to people, which we will speak about. There is a way of listening for impact and vision and translating that into action. There is a way of listening. And if you're listening from the right space, then it really becomes effortless and then it's just sharing what you've listened to.
Right. Well, I think that's a part of who you are. I think that's how you grew up, and maybe your parents modeled it, your sisters, it's definitely a part of who you are. I experience it every time I'm with you, but it's a great insight. We're going to go to break, everybody, but we'll come back. We're speaking with Michael Peluso of 3 Summers Creative. I want to get into the business and how it came about. And I think your name is really fascinating. There's a story behind that. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this whole relationship-driven growth concept, because I completely agree. It is absolutely fundamental, even transformational. If a business can understand this, they can do great things. So thanks for being here, Michael. Everybody, we'll be right back.
All clear. Great segment.
All right. Thanks, Jen. This is fun, man. You should seriously consider being a guest, like a host on Voice America, Michael. You would have so much fun. I mean, you're so quick off the cuff, and I should introduce you to Robert Cellino. I bet he'd be interested in you.
Yeah. We could have a lot of fun, man. I say it and I mean it very authentically, Patrick. It is really refreshing to be around you and to be part of everything that we're doing.
Yeah,
so cool.
I feel the same way, and I'm having so much fun. So if you open up your chat, you'll see they give us a countdown: 4, 3, 2, 1. So
okay.
I was keeping an eye on it, but if you have it open too, you'll see it on the side. And so we're still recording. So I always post the YouTube, and I keep these segments during the break in as kind of a behind the scenes view of the show. So it'll be fun. So when we come back, what's that? Say that again.
Where you guys that are watching this behind the scenes, you're getting what no one else sees.
You understand what a nut Michael really is. I mean, he has had us in stitches this week, because not only is he handsome, but he's also funny, handsome and brilliant and a stand-up comic.
I now need to come up with a response to that whole handsome thing. I need to have like an off the cuff. My favorite one today was this weekend was what do you do? And somebody said, whatever I want.
That's good. Okay.
15 seconds.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're with a very good friend of mine and also a consummate advertising marketing executive, Mr. Michael Peluso of 3 Summers Creative. I'd love to hear the story behind your name, because I know it's listed in the episode description. It's on your website, but I know there's a little bit more to that story. I think it's a really interesting insight into who you are and who your company is. Do you mind sharing that with us?
So the 3 Summers Creative. So there's a lot of different stories about how our name came around. You speak to everybody. So I like to think about it, because there's 3 of us, there's 3 siblings, and when all 3 of us are there, my sister says that there was this rap song that she was listening to that had 3 Summers Creative in it. And she said, oh, you know what, I'm going to just, which is completely not what we do, but there was a time period in my sister's life. When I feel into it, there was a time period in my sister's life where she moved out, she was married. She just launched this. We've been around for years. The agency started off as my sister. I was building all these other businesses and working with all these other people and in the health industry, and then in leadership, and my sister was study communications. She started with the relationships, filmed at Duke Farms and all the local businesses and grew it. And I was out there building these relationships with people that were hiring me for health and life coaching and mindset, and then we merged. So the story of 3 Summers Creative really shows up for me as I'm her older brother. And so for me, it shows up around this time period inside of her life where she had kind of left the family. She'd married with someone that she wound up getting a divorce from at one point. And she spent some time doing a little bit of soul searching, deciding who she was. She, we're a women-owned business. I'll let her share her story. But to me, within her family, there was this 3 summers where she put in some real serious inner work, and then turned 3 summers into the strategy. And I know that during that time period for her, it was a time period where we didn't hear from her. We call her, we wouldn't be able to miss her. And I think that all of us have experiences and challenges that are really valuable. And I think last night it was said by Ken, who he mentioned we could share about Ken. He said, when I run into an obstacle, it's like, great. When we overcome an obstacle in business, we're that much further ahead. That's an obstacle that the competition is going to need to overcome. And when we overcome it, it's one more thing for them to do. And so it starts off with that mindset, that foundation and presence of, we're going to overcome this with the team. Great, let's make it happen, and we get it done. I think that was what really, truly birthed 3 Summers Creative, was this obstacle inside of her life where she said, you know what, I am I am who I am, and I am going to make this happen. And that's where we, as her family, saw her show up in family leadership. And so it's kind of been the background.
That's really neat. It's probably my favorite thing about our show is that we have all these different stories, right? We have all these different entrepreneurs and CEOs and artists and so forth who are coming on our show and telling their story. And every story is different. Everyone is unique. But the patterns I see through them, there's two main things. One is that they were their authentic, true self. Most of us, we wear different hats and we kind of play a chameleon, right? When we're working for an employer or doing a certain thing, and until we find that lane where we can truly be ourselves, I don't think we ever achieve the success or the happiness, the satisfaction that we could have. Right? You alluded to that earlier. When you're passionate about what you're doing, you don't even feel like you're going to work. I mean, it's just an extraordinary experience. And the second is that not only do you have to be authentic, but you have to put in the time. Anybody who thinks you're going to start a business and it's going to be overnight success, you hear the stories of, it took me 25 years to be an overnight success, right? Everybody says, wow, how did you do it? Wow, you're so amazing. Well, it took me 25 years, right? And it's those parallels of find something you love and then put in the time, the blood, sweat, and tears that brings it about. Wouldn't you agree?
I would absolutely agree. I mean, 100%. And I think, like we were talking about faith before, or the universe, or intuition and guidance. And I think that's the gap there, there's this stepping out of the efforting, or I guess trying to do things the way that you think that the world wants them to be done, or the way that and stepping into your authentic self, and your authentic self being enough. And then that becoming that expression of authentic self becomes that path. And I think, like, one of the things that you touched on there is time management and getting it done. I think that time management there's a very unique formula for time management that I found very successful, which I'd like to share, because it really helped me develop a forward-thinking mindset about my business. Instead of, I think that sometimes people are in a reactive mode, and this shows up, they got to react over here, they got to react over here. I spent a period of my time trying to think about how can I create my life moving forward? How do I spend my time moving forward versus living from the past? How do I get out of reactive mode and move forward? And so what I did was on Sundays, I set up 2 hours to just sit down and clear all my concerns out of my head. So I no longer worrying about that. Then I dropped into a state of gratitude and really, really felt and feel grateful. And for myself, for my body, for the relationships in my life, for the people that I'm thinking about doing business with, I really create authentic gratitude. And I think that sense, that presence, is what I then bring into the filters of the relationships. And then from that authentic gratitude, I reach out, I connect people, say, hey, can I get you on my schedule? Yada, yada, yada. And I try to do that 2 or 3 weeks in advance. This way I've created a vision, creating an impact filter on my life, and then scheduled my life. And then living through that gives me some certainty, because when I don't know, things happen. So, and there's this rough framework of where we're going to be, when we're going to be there, who we're going to be there with. Right. And so I think that everyone that if you're just starting out, or you're trying to grab some certainty, you're trying to really figure out how do you utilize your time, lay out your schedule, block out the whole thing from your morning routine to your evening routine. And then if you don't have a mentor, you can share that schedule with someone that you find valuable, that you feel like will contribute to your ultimate mission. And that schedule will give direct feedback to them, and basically the playing board, the chessboard of your life, and then focusing on the right things, removing what isn't David, will really allow your natural, authentic light to shine through. So I think that habit has been very valuable for me, and I think it's valuable for every entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Talking about our mentors, right? Surrounding us with the top 5 people we want to be most like. I mean, if you don't feel like you have them, I had a guest a few weeks back named Vali Aldea, and he grew up in Romania. He owns a very successful virtual assistant company now, but he talked about how he didn't have mentors. He had, his family and his friends all thought he was crazy to start his own business. Oh, well, the internet? What's the internet, right? And when he made his first $50 on the internet, he was so excited, right? Because he had actually succeeded. But he talked about how he didn't personally have mentors, so he went to books and speakers like Jim Rohn and John Maxwell and others to learn from them. And that's one option you can use. But in my experience, it's not that difficult to find good mentors within your community, within your church, your neighborhood, or whatever. And if there's a celebrity or someone who's a little more accomplished, maybe a little more experienced that you'd really love to get to know, I'll give you one bit of advice. Go to them, find out where they're speaking, find out where they're presenting, and don't ask for anything, but offer to serve. Go to them and say, how can I help? And be specific. Say, this is who I am. I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to learn from you if I can, but how can I serve you? Can I help set up chairs at your next event? Can I help hand out flyers or help work the back desk with the books? I've found, and I received that advice from a very good friend of mine named Bill Walsh, who's a billionaire. He's America's business leader. I mean, he takes businesses to the next level all the time. He's the one who taught me that. He said, if you want to get to know a celebrity or an influencer, don't ask for anything. Just give them value. I thought that was great advice.
We shared a little bit earlier about listening from a particular place, right? And that I think is the key to relationships. When you're in marketing, there's 2 ways to grow. Right? You want to grow your business. There's 2 ways. There are many ways, but there's 2 main thoughts behind it. One is to impact a group of people. Like, where is my audience? Where are they already congregated? Where are they already meeting? Where do they hang out? And then the other way is to create an audience. So that's I'm standing on the curb, and the people that come by, I'm going to gather to help stand on the curb with me. And so you have these kind of 2 buckets, and then you think about your offer. Your offer is what you're communicating to those people. So whether they're going by you somewhere else or they're all congregated somewhere, and think of it kind of like Facebook. That's an audience that's congregated, right? And so they're grouped together. So your offer is what you're going to introduce to those people. And in order to understand what those people care about, you have to have a way of listening to their fears, their frustrations, their challenges, their wants, needs, and desires. And so I think and now it's not enough to just listen to them and to know it. You've got to be able to communicate in a way that serves those fears, serves those needs, serves those wants, desires. And you've got to be able to communicate it in a very short and to the point, valuable offering, in which helps them understand what it is that you do, how you can help them overcome their fears, frustrations, and challenges, and accomplish their wants, needs, and desires. And if you've done it properly, you'll deliver a message that they'll be able to pass on to others at the Thanksgiving table. As I like to, it's a viral. So, people talk about building funnels, right? So it's a viral psychological funnel of value and of impact. Now that's so, if you're really anchored in it, there's that impact, that mission that everyone cares about is so much bigger than your business. It's so much bigger than your business. So if you're able to identify that impact driver, if you're able to identify that vision and share about and help others share that vision with others, they're going to come up. They're going to say, how can I serve? and your mentorship, gaining a mentor, understanding and listening to their vision and going up to them and saying, hey, I love that. I get it. How can I serve it? Is the key to relationship driven marketing, whether you're building a funnel, you're creating a video, whether you're creating a sales script, regardless of what you're looking to do, it is about value and it's about offer and it's about communication.
Right. I've taught my salespeople for years, over the last 30 plus years, that they have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And they need to remember them in that order, and remember the quantity differential, right? We're coming up on another break here, but how do you do that? I know through good questioning is a key for me. I can get someone talking, and I love learning and hearing people's stories. So it's completely genuine from my standpoint. I really enjoy meeting new people. And I think I ask pretty good questions. I'll share my insights, and it's easy to have a great conversation. But just in the next minute or so, how do you do that? How do you affect that communication that is relationship driven connection and growth?
Sure. And we can talk about neurology and how that works, because this is a major play in neurology, which we could pull apart. But I am listening for a very personally, a hell yeah out of what they're sharing. I'm listening for something that's great. Oh, I'm listening for that. And until I hear it, I'm just not, I'm listening, but I'm waiting for that. Yeah. Once I get that, and I got it personally, and it sometimes requires me reframing it, or, yesterday we were listening to somebody who was pitching this incredible rehabilitating communities with games, taking games, the game of basketball, and transforming rural communities by creating mentor structures with the game of basketball. She sat there and couldn't communicate it. So that's the value. That one sentence. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You see it in a presentation. I gave a keynote speech earlier this week, and when the slide came up of my family that shows my brother who's Samoan, my sister Korean, my black brother-in-law, all of our little, biracial siblings and cousins, and that was when everyone engaged. That was a picture that they loved. And that was their hell yeah experience, right?
Yeah.
It was so refreshing. I could see the whole audience at the same time have that experience. They saw a connection with me. Many of them were African, because we're here for the African Summit as part of the CEO Summit. But it was really cool. It's a great example of what you're talking about. But,
oh my God. And I felt it. The room moved.
Yeah. So we're going to go to break again, guys. We're talking to Michael Peluso of 3 Summers Creative. Very pleased to have you with us, my friend. But we'll be right back. We're going to break down a little bit more of this relationship-driven growth and communication. Talk a little bit more about the experience we've had here this week, because it's been extraordinary. So we'll be right back.
All clear. Great job.
All right. It's going well.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried, man, but this is a great conversation. You're doing awesome.
It really is.
It's such a fun experience. It's when Frank asked me if I would be, and I was on his show as a guest, and then he said, would you be interested in doing what I do? Be a headliner host. And he said I could set a meeting up with Robert Chilino and make it happen. He's the general manager. I think I can get you an audience if you're interested. And I said, absolutely. It sounded like so much fun.
Yeah.
And I thought, and it has been, we're a fairly new show. We don't have that many episodes under our belt. We've had some phenomenal guests already, and I have some coming that are incredible, but it's kind of like the highlight of my week, besides going to church on Sunday. I'm looking forward to Friday mornings. Right? Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah.
You know what? And it really is, like, what I love about it is the when you're picking the people that you want to have on the show, it's palpable, and you have this impact filter. And I think that that's part of it. I think it sparks a conversation because you have an incredible offering to people that are out there doing something really good. So it's just a win-win from all directions, being able to educate people, being able to put them towards resources that have a great backbone.
15 seconds.
I totally agree. I better say I look forward to my wife's date night too. Just not get in trouble.
Clean it up.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back, everybody. As I said earlier, we are with Michael Peluso, who is the Business Development Director of Business Development, correct?
Yep.
With 3 Summers Creative. And he talked a little bit about how their name is resonant of 3 summers of work that went into even just launching the business, getting it started. And, before we jump into it, and we're winding down here, we're coming toward the end of the show, but we're talking a little bit about relationship conversation and relationship driven growth. I think it's such an important concept for businesses out there who may be listening, nonprofits and so forth, because if you don't care about the relationships, you're never going to achieve the success you desire. They say people don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? And it's a really important reminder for businesses, for advertisers, for nonprofits. The list goes on. You're a great example of that, Michael, because you're so good at your relationships. I mean, tell us, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit more about what you guys do with Summer Creative. And I know you have some pretty big clients. You had the honor of talking to United Nations. So tell us about that. You didn't. I mean, I know your sister was the speaker, but you guys were represented there. And
I think I want to give everyone a very valuable framework because I think it's like, well, how do I get relationships? Where should I be at it?
Right.
I think one of the things that we specialize in is creating content that delivers that succinct message. And there's a formula for that, and we could get into that. But now we say, okay, so now you've got the website, you've got the content, you've got the messaging, right? Well, what are you going to do with all that? You got to share it. And so today, when COVID hit, we saw a big pull from people acquiring clients, the front of the funnel. They redirected the money towards the back of the funnel, towards referrals, towards networking, towards events. And so
retention,
exactly. Retention, which is a great investment. That's a great investment. Because those are things that people share, things that people go to. There's verbal communication. There's a higher transition from just like flipped through it to, hey, there's this thing that I'm doing. And that thing that I'm doing is being shared through language, one-on-one, and in relationships. So now you've got your whole ecosystem up. And I'm actually going to share a little bit about what you did this week, Patrick, because it is the perfect scenario. We've been speaking to the retired VP of Pepsi, right? How do we get up there? How do you get a meeting with such a man? So the first thing is we connected, we shared a connection. I was listening for how things are going to be valuable for you. You were listening for how things are going to be valuable for me. So Mike, come on out here. We got this beautiful place to stay in. And we got to know each other. So for everyone that's listening, where are your people hanging out? And what events are they going to? And can you get there? And then who can you bring there that will gain mutual value? Patrick, you're huge on win-win. And that's the heart of a good relationship. So who can you invite to this event where it's going to be a win-win? Okay, so now you're going to this event, and the next move is to contact the person that's with the event and say, hey, listen, I'm bringing some amazing people that are going to provide a lot of value for you, a lot of value for your audience. Can I introduce you to them? Who do they need to be in communication with? How do we make this even better? And that produces an authentic, real, in the pocket, valuable experience for everybody that's involved. And so now you go to the event, you've got a larger group of people, you're able to network, you're able to listen for what's going to make a real difference in what people are doing, what they really care about, which means that when you're having a conversation with somebody, you're going to get right down to that point. And then you say, oh man, you know what? You care about retaining your employees. I got to introduce you to Patrick. Hold on 1 second, because you're listening for that outcome. And now you make a connection, you build a relationship that's really actually valuable, where there's real tangibility to impacting people's lives because you're connecting two people with a similar vision. And then you're authentically in a great environment where you fall in love with everybody. And then what you do is you get to know everyone. And then you find out what they're doing, and then you create the next group to go to the next event and invite them to the next event. And so you begin to kind of, I guess, event hop or network, and you begin to build community. And that community is an authentic community. It's a community where people are contributing. It's a community that you want to be part of because they're building relationships. So Patrick, you've done that, and that's why I'm here today. And I'm so grateful for it, because it is a truly incredible community. Everyone that's listening, if you have not reached out to Patrick, figured out how you can get more involved in the communities that he's building, you should, because they're incredible. But there's your formula. You figure out where your people are. You fall in love with them. You figure out what's going to be meaningful and make a difference for them. You connect like crazy. You bring a lot of people to the events, and then you go on to the next one. And there's your evil plan, there's the evil plan, guys. I'm going to figure out what you're doing, and how I can make a difference.
$1 million.
Yeah. And I think, and the universe, it responds well. It's a win-win-win for everybody. And I think, like our company has built a lot of content to support those processes, a lot of videos. And, for example, for Verizon, we did their employee stock purchase program. So all the people that employees that wanted to invest and better understand, that's a very complicated process that we had to boil down very simply, and created a website. We made some video content for them, and we've done that kind of a thing for Home Depot, and we're looking at other companies, very large companies like that. So we really specialize in that data, breaking it down, creating something that people are going to engage with. We were just hired by Somerset County Business, the county, to create a video that tours the community so that they can attract more business. The point is that at the end of the day, all that stuff came from conversations, one-on-one, listening for what's gonna make the biggest difference in somebody's life. So we say, well, what's effective marketing? A lot of people think of it screaming. That's screaming or messaging or communication is the effect of very good listening and listening. So I think that, and having a good marketing strategy is listening from the numbers,
right.
Listen to the numbers.
Right. I appreciate your comments. The funny thing is as we said earlier, is it doesn't feel like work. I feel like I'm drawn to that. It's not just that I may be good at it, but it's really enjoyable. When you're connecting with people and you're not looking at what can they do for me, but what can I do for them? How can I help them? Hey, I know somebody you need to meet, and you put a connection. You may not make anything on it. There may not be an override. There may not be a residual. It's just a connection. If you can get paid on it too, that's okay too. But, but it's a really amazing experience. I had a really extraordinary conversation just yesterday with a new friend. His name is Derek Rutledge, and he is the makeup artist to Oprah Winfrey. He's worked with Beyonce, with Mariah Carey, I think he said, with Rihanna. I mean, the list goes on and on. Michelle Obama, he did he's done makeup for her. He has a really incredible story. And we talked for well over an hour, and he was the most attentive, authentic listener that I have probably ever met. I mean, and he's honed his skills, I'm sure, over years and years of listening to his celebrity friends and clients doing what he does, right? And he was so genuine. I got to give a shout out to you, Derek. If you ever hear this, it really impacted me. It meant a lot. He's already texted me, and we have this new friendship. And you know what it came from was two things. One, he was interested and sincerely interested, and two, he gave it some time. He was not in a rush to get on to the next thing. And we had this conversation that I will always remember. I think we will have a relationship, hopefully a friendship that will continue for a long time to come. But it's just he was such a great example of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so if you think back, and my side of the story for everyone that's listening is there I am. Right. We're talking about the great people that we met. Patrick, you got to meet this guy, check it out. And he's showing me a picture on his phone, and, and there's that one to many where when you're listening for, then you want to share it. So it's so authentic. I think that it's so easy. Another thing that I think is really valuable is that, there was the events that I go to, the events that we're at are people that, there's a context to this event, mm-hmm. and it's people that are coming together for contribution. So I think that, that's an opportunity. What event can you go to where you can come together for contribution?
Right. There are definitely events that are more aligned with that, or that lean more that direction. This CEO Summit, it's an annual event at Liberty University. I mean, Dean Dave Bratt, he's a former congressman, did a phenomenal job setting this up and directing it. We had speakers like the former president of Ghana, and Newt Gingrich spoke last night, and the lieutenant governor of Virginia. And it was such an extraordinary experience for lots of different reasons. The authenticity, the contribution. I mean, it's a kind of a joint summit between the African Delegate Summit and the CEO Summit. They all meet here on campus. I truly believe that Africa is it will be one of the strongest economies to come. They have the most fertile lands. They have so many resources. And it was really exciting seeing many of the people here, like Lloyd Ward and Martin Johnson and others, his partner, working to create these synergies between our nations with truly a servant's heart. So we're coming up on the end of our show. Just in the last minute here, Michael, if you could leave one last tip with the listeners, and then tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
You got about 60 seconds.
Listen for, this is it. Listen for and reliably deliver that which will make a real difference in what people are doing and what they really care about, and do it from a place of certainty in your faith, in your presence, in that you have it right now. You got it right now. And the path of least resistance just begins to show up. Come out, and I think that my call to action is come out and hang out with us at the next event. Figure out how you can be there, so we can figure out what's going to make the biggest difference for you in your business. People, you can reach out to me. You could email me. You could find us at threesummerscreative.com. My cell phone number, is it okay for me to give my number?
Yeah, sure.
Do that? All right. Is 908-892-3325. And I love to hear from everyone. And it's best if you text me. I'm just, I'm here looking to hear your vision, impact your vision, help you get there through marketing and advertising and all the relationships that I've been fortunate to create. And I know that you are learning to do the same and will do the same for me. And so, yeah, thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate this.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Michael. I've really enjoyed this last week. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll have lots more conversations. Everybody, if you are listening, and come back next week, we're going to have an amazing guest, Gary Reeves, who what he's doing to help nonprofits is just absolutely extraordinary. I know I use that word a lot, but it is outstanding. So come back and join us. If you have questions about anything you've heard today, you can text the word certainty to 26786. We'll get you some information, and we look forward to speaking with you. Michael, thanks again. We appreciate it. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All clear. Great job today, gentlemen. You take care and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Thank
you, my friend. Appreciate it. All right, we're still recording. You want to give any more behind the scene tips since we're on YouTube right now?
Oh yeah.
Now with the truth from Mr. Michael Peluso.
Yeah. All right. No, I think maybe some people are like, well, I need some marketing relationship tactical stuff, right? So I'm gonna you guys right now with that.
Okay. You said there's a formula, right?
There is a formula. Yeah, there really is. When we ask a question, if I say, think of it like Google, think of your brain like Google, and everyone that's listening, their brain is like Google. When we ask a question, that question, your brain is the greatest goal achieving machine on earth. It's the greatest search engine. Pulls forth the information that it feels relevant. And so if we were to take that vision larger, we all can get behind answering a question. We all can get behind answering a question. So how do we create abundance in South Africa is a question that supersedes all businesses. It's a human question. Now, when we ask that question, the brain begins to assemble ways of contribution. It just starts bringing everything together like Google. So the tactical marketing end of things is address your community with a powerful question that you have a solution for. You position your product as the solution to a powerful question. Tactically, you can use things like quick pages, quickpage.io. Dub is another one. And it's a platform that lets you shoot a personalized video where you can engage an exact individual with a question. And it turns the beginning into a gift, and then it daisy chains and plays the next video and the next video and the next video. So now you can engage people by the thousands all at once, or break it down. So it's like, hey, it's Mike Peluso. I'm hanging here at Liberty University. I'd love it if you were able to make it out. I did stop inside and speak to your assistant. She said that you're not here today, so I figured I'd shoot you this video because we have a really powerful technology that can help save lives in the case of an emergency or a shooter. And we all think that that there's immediate communication with everyone that's there, but there isn't. And so if there was a shooter right now, we would not be able to communicate globally. There's no platform for us all to know where the shooter is, that we're safe. There's no platform for you to get a communication out. What are you going to use, an email or a text? We're not all on that platform. So I included a video where I talk a little bit about the technology and how it can impact your school. It's going to play next. I included my link down below. I'd love to be able to chat with you. You can schedule some time there. So now that's a personalized introduction, because that's the future of relationship-driven marketing. And then afterwards, you have your branded videos. They play, and you can send them out into the world. So that's just one example of relationship-driven marketing at scale.
And you said it was dove.com?
Yeah, it's Dub. I think it's dub.com or dub.io. They're and then you could look up quick pages as well. They're a company, and it started off in the car industry, and they were trying to figure out, hey, how can we shoot a video, explain the car, have something introduction, but then talk about all the other cars that we have.
Right.
So it's similar, and you do want to have professional, another thing that I think a lot of people overlook is, and I'm going to, back in the day, would you go to a party and bring something that wasn't impactful to the party? Would you offer this is a Christian ministry that we're in here, and we talk about offerings, and there's the whole conversation of offerings at the to God, or which is a whole nother story. You think about that, if you use that same offering and you look at it and you say, well, would you, with all your friends trying to be as contributive as you could, would you bring them an offering that wasn't really valuable, wasn't directly impactful, wasn't wrapped really beautifully? So
Right.
your online business is the storefront, and your offering to the world. And so it should be beautiful. It should be the best. It's a very little expense to have imaging and graphics that are very impactful. It should be succinct. You can say less with more. And then tell the story with video content so that your sales reps don't have to. That way they can focus on the relationships.
Well, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think a video is worth 10,000, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I saw the video you referred to about your county and to attract movie producers and directors into the area. It's gorgeous. I look forward to coming up and doing some fishing or something. But but it was such a great the way it was put together. I think it's such a great job of catching these little sound bites and these little glimpses of corners of your county, the city, the town, some of the architecture, the waterfalls, things like that. And it's part of what you're talking about is you have to put the effort into making it look good. It doesn't have to necessarily be professionally done and expensive and so forth, but take the time to make it look like you put some thought into it, right? If you have the budget or they have the connection to hire someone to make it look really good, even better, someone like you guys. I'd love to have you put the link to that video in our YouTube. If you can send it to me, I'll
Sure
put it in the description so they can see what we're talking about, right? So
I'll give you a couple of them. It's about telling that story creatively too,
Right.
And I think like part of when we're looking at impact, relationship driven impact, right? Part of it is that there's so many distractions. So, I personally stopped buying things on Facebook, right? So iOS rolled out an update where it makes it so that iPhone users can opt in and out of the data tracking. I mean, what that does is it prevents the efficiency of advertising in a very large way, because Facebook is a huge thing. It's obviously not the only thing. We use all kinds of other platforms.
Right.
So how do you address that? Well, one, the ads that I see now are not relevant to me. I'm not interested in them. And I also don't really trust as much stuff that I'm not directly looking for. So we're taking things, we're changing the way that we approach advertising to be all relationship driven. And when it's relationship driven, you're telling a story, because that's what keeps people excited. We've been telling stories around for years and years and years. So how do you tell your story? How do you tell the story of a county in a way that engages the county? How do you make it so that it sticks out, like little nuances? I'll share one that we did a while ago. This one got 40,000 organic views. It was a reiteration of Hallelujah that the team actually built, right? Or excuse me, filmed and shot. Like, in other words, sang. Let me say that differently. Our team, the marketing, the employees shot and played all the instruments in the music in Hallelujah and sang. And then what they did is they rewrote the words for just subtle things, real subtle changings. And it was about marketing and giving your marketing a hallelujah. And then they sent it out it was our contribution for the holidays that particular year. But It was so beautifully done on a shoestring. Everybody there. We unfortunately weren't able to have all the employees obviously play the one song, but it was really well done. And I think that kind of attention to detail overrides all the noise. When it's like you said, it's, oh, Pat, I shared some of the videos that have been on your web, on the E3 about the schools, and the impact that we can have on schools. So it's like having that content and having that message down so that we can share it with people that we're having, just to re-solidify that this is real, that, we care about it enough to have this content. It's really valuable for people.
I couldn't agree more. You have to send me that link as well. I'll put them both in the description. So, well, appreciate you guys listening. Thanks for, if you watch the YouTube part, you get a little bit of the between the scene glimpses and get a little more information. If you have an advertising or marketing need, I highly recommend you reach out to Michael and his team at 3 Summers Creative. We've been very impressed with what we've seen thus far, and man, you just keep getting better too, Michael. You think you're there, and you just keep improving. So I don't know where you're going to go from here, but I'm sure it's up.
I appreciate you. Yeah, gotta hold on to the secrets and share them with the ones you love.
That's right. So once again, guys, 3summerscreative.com is the website, or you can reach out to Michael directly. Give him your cell phone one more time, if you would.
Sure. It's 908-892-3325.
All right. And if you have questions about certainty management, what we're doing with cost reduction, with deep discount benefits, how we're protecting schools in the event of an active shooter situation. It's actually my brother's company, but I'll give him a shout out here. And then how we're using our cost reduction expertise to raise free funding, literally zero cost funding for nonprofits. We call it Profit with Purpose. So if you'd like to know anything more about that, visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com.
Wait. Can I say something really quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I think that I'm going to ask everyone that's listening, because you guys are our backstage people. I mean, you're getting the behind the scenes.
The VIP.
The VIP. I'm wondering if you can hear the presence of that which will make a real difference in what Patrick is doing and what he cares about. Can you hear that? In other words, right now, you hear that he's got an opportunity to actually create unlimited funding for nonprofits by sharing that their audience, all those people that have donated, can save money and help the nonprofit. So when you hear that, can you hear how you can reliably deliver that which will make a real difference in what he's doing and what he really cares about? And if you listen from that direction as an exercise and take action, then you will have mastered relational growth. Thank you for letting me share that.
I appreciate that, Michael. On that note, I'm going to add one more addendum too, if I may,
Sure.
For anyone who's listening, because it actually plays right into what you're talking about. So last week on our show, we did it from Orlando in the middle of the hurricane, or it was the day after the hurricane, right? We had Ben O'Quigley, who's the owner of erctree.com. And he was here this week in Liberty, or in Lynchburg with us as well. He did one of the breakout sessions to the group. But I'm just going to bring everything full circle, everything you've talked about, relationship, communication and growth, listening to insights and impressions that come, looking for ways to serve others. And literally in front of our eyes, we had this whole thing come to a fruition, right? We saw it unveiled before our eyes. And I'll tell you what I'm saying, tell you what I'm talking about. Anyone out there who has a child, a niece, a nephew, a cousin, a grandchild, whoever, who is looking for a way to pay for college. I got to tell you this experience we had. I presented, Michael presented. We had this one girl named Kaylee who attended every one of our breakout sessions. She was like tried and true. We started calling her Trooper. Yeah. And she was in everyone. We had 9 different speakers on one day. Every 45 minutes, we had another show. And Katie was there the whole time. And the second to last one was Ben talking about ERC. And then Michael wrapped it up as our kind of, last the best of all the gang, talking about exactly what we just talked about on this show. So anyway, we're talking with Kaylee. There's another young man there named Eli, both students here at Liberty University. And Ben was explaining to the audience how the ERC works. Employee Retention Tax Credit is this COVID CARES fund. It's billions of dollars that was set aside to help reward companies and nonprofits and others who kept their employees on during COVID. It's a way to recover some of that expense through payroll tax recovery and so forth. And there's different criteria. Many companies out there, many businesses think they don't qualify because they were told by their accountant that you got the PPP, you can't get the ERC. Well, that's not true. One, there's more criteria than just that. There's 3 ways you can qualify, not just one. And secondly, it's they've updated and amended the guidelines. They keep doing that because the fund wasn't going fast enough. There weren't enough people qualifying for it, so they made it easier to qualify. So anyway, we're explaining this process, and through the ERC, as you've heard, and I encourage you to go back and listen to last week's episode if you haven't already, but you can receive up to $26,000 per W-2 employee. So for smaller businesses, 2 to 500 W-2 employees. So we're talking to these students though, and it was like I got hit upside the head by a ton of bricks. That using this program, we could help these students literally graduate debt-free if they wanted to. And we didn't come here with that agenda or that in mind. We never even thought about this. We have a finder's fee, a commission that's built into it. We earn a piece of what we recover and so forth. But we started talking to these college kids and we said, and I just out of the blue, it was at the end of the conversation, I said, how would you guys like to be able to graduate debt-free? I mean, imagine getting out of 4 years of college with no debt and money in the bank. And their eyes light up. They start, salivating and drooling. Yeah. Tell me what, they were just immediately, of course, interested. And these are entrepreneurial kids. These are kids in the School of Business here at Liberty University. This one girl, Kaylee, she wants to start several businesses in the culinary arena. And Eli, he wants to start a school of his own someday, and just really great kids. But I said, you could literally refer us to businesses who don't know about this, who are in need. Maybe they're struggling, maybe they're not, but they could qualify for up to $26,000 per employee. 20 employees, that's $500,000 potentially. I said, if you referred us to a small handful of those businesses and we share in our earnings with you, said you could literally retire and it wouldn't take very much. It's like we figured out the head count of about 200 employees total. They could earn enough with our working together with us, because we'd give them a very large percentage of what we earned, and literally retire debt-free, no student loans, money in the bank to buy a house, start a business, go travel, whatever, right? I mean, we went from 2 that we talked to about it yesterday. I had 6 more call me today here at Liberty saying, how can we get in on this? I think it could literally go organic, go viral through the university and other universities as well. Because debt for students is a big concern, right? It's a massive concern, and it's very expensive to go to school. We figured, maybe tuition here is $28,000 with housing and everything, are about $40,000 to $45,000. We figured $50,000 a year with, we were joking with the kids about, with some extra money built in for dates and movies and junk food, right? And so I said, so let's say $200,000. That's your goal. I said, you could literally refer one company to us with 200 employees, and you could we could help you earn that kind of income. You could send us, half a dozen businesses with 30 or 40 employees each. The one girl, Kaylee, her dad owns a plumbing and heating company with about 50 employees. I said, let's help your dad out, show you how it works. Then let's tell the other students how it can work, and we can help them. And this is a great example of two things: us listening to what we're hearing from our audience and looking at ways that we can serve them and help them. And it is win-win. It's a joint venture. We're going to win. They're going to win. Everybody wins. But then also listening to those promptings that come, that impression that popped in my head to speak up and mention this idea. And it was just the right time, right place. It was the right audience. And they're so excited, Michael. My phone is blowing up, as they should be. It took me 10 years to pay off my student loans.
Right.
And I can't even imagine. I said, can you imagine retiring, or graduating, being done with school, and then having a couple of $100,000 in the bank? I mean, can you imagine? They're like, no, I can't imagine. It sounds too good to be true. So we're going to put together a little video. I'd love to talk to you about it. We could put together a little training video, kind of a little video to share the concept with businesses that they know, whether they're friends or family or whoever. We do a little training, get on Zoom. By then we'll probably have about 600 college students who want to be a part of it. Right? But
Taking everybody in the
right. I mean, and it's a temporary thing. It's a program that will run out. We only have the next year or two to do something with it. But imagine helping hundreds of college, maybe even thousands of college students get their education, remove the stress of the finances, retire, or I keep saying retire, but graduate debt free. Yeah. I mean, what a blessing, right? What a way to really have an impact on these kids' lives.
Huge.
Yeah. All right, we'll stop talking, guys. Thanks for staying on a little bit long with us. But if you know a college student who needs help, have them reach out to us. We'll show them how to do it. I also told them, hey, you should come work for us when you're done. Yeah. Let's get you going here. They were so sharp. They're such great kids. So maybe I'll send them the link. Let them hear us talk about them. But we had some really exciting things happen. And thanks for being here this week, Michael, and on the show. And this is the longest one I've done because we've talked a little bit longer here, but we're very pleased to know you, my friend, and be getting to know you better and better. So,
well, thank you, brother. It is truly a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine. All right, everybody. Well, we'll talk to you next week. Come on back. If you have a nonprofit anywhere in your circle of influence, you want to hear from Gary Reeves and what his TV station is doing, his foundation. We're going to talk about how we can help raise zero-cost funding for him and for his network. And we got some exciting things coming down the pike. So we'll talk to y'all later. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Bye for now.